Hello, and welcome to Emerald Thoth with me, Mark. Good to see you today. Hope you're keeping well. I'm going to jump straight in today's read. So today's read is going to be about what cords do you need to cut and what needs to go in your life at this moment. The people, the places, the workplaces, the environments, the habits, parts of yourself that you may need now to let go so you can clear space for your spiritual evolution. Whatever evolution you're looking for always needs clearing space, but in this case, if you're attuned to this channel, it's some spiritual evolution or development, or just even a material next steps that you need to take. And with that, I've been called to take Michael and Faith, so Archangel Michael and Faith, to really bring Archangel Michael into this read to help us kind of realize or activate the things in us that need to be cut and be cleared, and to come through and bring these messages. Spiritual calling, divine protection, breakthrough moment. And this is probably a breakthrough moment if you're tuned into this video. So we're seeing what cords need to be cut, which areas we can let go of to make space for the new to come in. So with that, I have a new deck, a new oracle deck, which I've got today. And that is Angels of Atlantis. So to see which kind of angelic support is there to help guide us today. And I'll look to take 3 cards, hopefully, to see what kind of angelic Atlantean support is going to give us an indication today at the top of this reading. Okay. The bottom of the deck is Zafkiel's Surrender. So you're being asked to surrender to divine guidance, to surrender things, peoples and places, but to surrender to what the universe tells you to let go of, and then to surrender those things in your everyday life. And with that, a miracle. So Metatron miracles here, it's divine knowledge and information and teachings and new beginnings here as well. You are a miracle being born on this earth, which is saying with the baby, but you're clearing space for those miracles. You're creating new beginnings, you're creating new births in your life, whether that's a new job or a new creative outlet or a new person or people or a new place. So it's asking you to surrender and have faith, as Michael and Faith here, in those miracles that can occur, but also to make space for those in your life. Because if you're holding on to the same routines, the same habits, the same mindsets, then if you don't believe in those miracles or even just those advancements in your life, it doesn't have to be so grand, then those advancements have little room to come in. Metatron is here again with Mercy, so 2 Metatron. I have shuffled this deck earlier today, so it's giving divine teaching and knowledge and faith, and this process of you breaking through and turning into this diamond. You know, diamonds are formed after, thousands, millions of years under the earth, and then they come up to the surface. So diamonds take that time to form, and then this knowledge takes time to form, and these miracles take time to create, but you also are clearing the space to kind of unearth yourself. Also gives a sense of the crown chakra as well, so higher knowledge coming through, a higher calling, a higher purpose. So to know that you are under the divine's mercy, you are under God's mercy, Yahweh, Allah's mercy, whichever way you want to use the term, you are under divine mercy, and to feel that the universe is always wanting the best for you, even when that means letting things go, even when that means you lose a bit of control, even when that means coming out of your comfort zone a bit, or things don't seem straight away as they're working for you. You are under mercy to have these miracles come in. Okay, so let's see the other card. This is Angel Light, by the way, in case you're wondering, and this is white turquoise with some lava rock. So a kind of, funny, there's a white kind of theme. Even this card has a lot of blue and yellow, but there's a white surrounding it and white at the bottom of the card. So it's very kind of clearing. It gives you an element of that clear quartz, of clearing that crown chakra of, when we work with the crown chakra on the top of our head, is the closest of the traditional 7 chakras. Some say the soul star chakra is higher, some people say it's within the body, but let's say of the 7 traditional chakras, the crown chakra is the highest, is the source consciousness, is the least defined of all that we have. And there's a lot of kind of crown chakra energy of you giving up and releasing and surrendering and clear to be able to see more clearly, to be things to be more transparent for you. Let's see the last one. Okay, Sandalphon, love, is then here, and then this gives a more groundly sense. This gives a more creative sense. This kind of sacral chakra energy, and that's a more grounded sense of love because of the colours on this card. Sandalphon is, you know, the more earthly version of Metatron, so they're believed to be essentially kind of twins, but not really twins. But you know, when Enoch and Elijah rose up into the heavens, the 2 biblical figures that did so, they're believed to then have become Metatron and Sandalphon. And Sandalphon is like more the bridge between the heaven and earth, and more of the earthly element. So this is you grounding that divine love. So what it's saying is you're clearing space for love, and then that can be people, connections, a romantic partner, soulmate connections, you know, whether that's working connections or whether that's people that you meet that bring you along your soul's path, really is what we're saying by soulmate connections, not just the romantic partner, which can be involved as well, yes. But these miracles and mercy, this Michael and faith, all of it together brings, you know, an opportunity to ground and to express and to be part of love. And there's also here, you've got Christ here with this kind of benediction of, it's like in the Hierophant card in the traditional tarot, it's like a channeling the divine and spreading it here on earth, and like number 3 involved in that. And it's saying this divine light and this divine downloads, when you clear space for it to come in, then the love on your path and the loving path and the people who reciprocate that love to you will become clearer. But without being as clear a vessel and feeling this divine faith, then it's harder for those connections and those things that embody that loving frequency to come into your life and ground, because you have to believe it, and yet you have to have cleared old habits and mentalities and ways of thinking to do so. And you could be, you know, you could be clearing that karma now, you could be working through that with people that have been in your life for a long time, family, friends, and this often happens on the spiritual path, and you have to be careful of things like cults and people who promise and redemptions and things like this, because it's an abstract area. But if you do want to move along the spiritual path, you do have to shed those ways of being, you know, ways of going out every weekend. It's not saying you can stop that, but those places and those things and those ways of doing things, that they may not resonate, and you can still keep the same connections that you had previously in your life, but the form of it has to look different, because to stand in this love and this power and this mercy, you can't be the same. If everything else in your life looks the same, it just won't allow it to flow. You know, you can change, and that's a beautiful thing, but there comes a time when it has to flow out into the people that you work with, that you talk to, the conversations you have, the places you go to, the things you do, the things you work on. And so that you're being divinely supported with this. I will bring in the Divine Masters to see on this kind of high theme at the moment what other kind of support you're getting. I saw this before taking these cards, and I was like, I thought maybe putting this in the reading to go with Michael and Faith, and I'll show you in a second, because, you know, I'm talking about someone you haven't seen it, but it is Joan of Arc, Sacred Activist, and I thought about bringing her out to indicate a more grounded sense, a more earthly sense, the more, you know, bottom 3 chakra kind of colours here, the red and the orange and the yellow. But I said, no, let's see who's going to come out. And sure enough, Joan of Arc, Sacred Activist, comes out. So that's a strong message of this clearing, and you grounding this clearing, and you standing in your power, regardless of what the world says, regardless of what traditional roles in society tell you, regardless of how people may take you if you're a teenager trying to lead people, right? You don't necessarily have to be a teenager, but where you're trying to lead in circles and you're trying to pioneer things where people will call you strange and weird and that you don't know what you're doing, but if you are divinely called, then you do know what you're doing, much higher than people who have experience in earthly terms. But if you have a calling and you have a passion and a drive and a fire in you, which I feel you do, because I can feel it in me right now, you're being called to surrender up to the divine, but then to embody that love. And then nobody can tell you really if you're embodying that. You just have to find, again, the people and places that go through with that spiritual calling that match. And that can take time, and that can just be how you embody yourself in places that are still local to you. You don't, have to move halfway across the world, but it's just how you walk and talk and move in the world. And if you do move and you do create divine aligned action with that, then this kind of love can come in, this kind of grounded love of what is reflecting your divine connection is creating those miracles on the earth. But it is calling you to sever ties. These are two swords. Often we see Archangel Michael as a sword. This is like a clearing thing that I don't normally do, to say that Archangel Michael, I'm under his protection, and that to help me sever the ties that aren't necessarily serving me, to let go of the things that aren't serving me, even if they're just in my mind. Most potently if they're in my mind, to be honest, because that's the most dangerous place, because people can be long out of your life but still in here. And sometimes in here, especially in the mind. So, Joan of Arc is here to help you stand up for those beliefs in a more embodied sense, and to stand up for it, whether you're a woman or a man or French or whoever you are, wherever you're from, whatever you identify as. You can still stand in that power and that truth and cut those ties and be brave. You're being asked to be brave. And there's two songs recently, Brave by Ella Henderson and Brave by Sarah Bareilles. Two kind of different versions on that, but that thing's been coming up to me recently. So there is a bravery, and love and cutting things out that have to go. And sometimes we're afraid of ourselves. Sometimes we're afraid of letting go of part of ourselves and an old identity. And that can cause us the delays. I've been reading a book recently called Quit. And in that it talks about where companies were too afraid to kind of lose their identity, or people had invested into something so much they were afraid to quit and to go somewhere else, or to stop ploughing millions into like a project like the California monorail. Like, there's so many examples in there, and sometimes we have to be bold enough to quit things and people and places, because as soon as we do that, we may be able to go to another place. I'm reading it at the moment where he's speaking to one of the best angel investors in history. There's a lot of financial stuff in here, but you can still make it relevant to your own life. Where he talks about one of the best angel investors, he says the statistics are that the companies who make money is about 10% of companies that start up make money in the California tech industry area. Of the 10% that do, it's lucrative if you make the money. It's massive. And he's worked with Facebook, Twitter, Snapchat. So he's one of the best in that area. And one of his key elements to his success is that he knows when something is not working, when these kind of brilliant, the geniuses, even if they're 10% of these companies, they're all kind of geniuses, or they've got grit and determination. These people who found these companies and come up with these brilliant ideas that can change the world is what you're talking about in kind of this California tech valley, is the kind of ethos, the go-to of that area, the idea, the concept. But what it is he has to say sometimes that you have to quit. Sometimes when it's your baby or something like that, you have to let it go. They just can't, because it's become part of their identity. Even though company Sears, Americans will relate to that, was a department store, and then they went into financial areas, which wasn't what they were founded for. But they started losing out in the department store areas, and they were starting to fold, and they could have moved just to the financial interest areas. Instead, they dropped the financial interest areas and they stayed as a department store, because that's what they were known for and what they'd done all their existence of 100 odd years, and they eventually went bust. So I think it's asking you to look at the areas of yourself to shed, the identity to shed as well, because even though it may not be best for us and we know it subconsciously, that us staying in that place or that position, or just sticking to that identity, which may suit other people, may ease others around us, especially we're empathic and we're people pleasing. If we stick to that identity, we will not grow, and we will not be able to embody as much this divine love, and we will not as much be able to step into our spiritual calling and have that breakthrough moment. Those breakthrough moments is ongoing. So learn where to let go and where to stand up for yourself, really, in the end. And sometimes that's a tough choice to let go of parts of us that have already changed, really. We're just not quite embodying them yet. And at the bottom of the deck is Katumi, initiatory experience, and this is what you're being initiated. You're going through an initiatory experience. You may have awoken in the last 1 or 2 years. You may not have awoken yet, but you're in places and you're around connections and circumstances that will awaken you. Or you may have been, awakened for a while, but you're ongoing and you're still embodying it, and you're still progressing in this world with embodying as much divine light and consciousness as you can, because no human being is ever fully enlightened, because you wouldn't be a human being anymore. But it's always, everyone's at a point in their path and their journey, and if you ever stop, then you're on a decline. Whether you're the Dalai Lama or whoever, if you stop, then you're on a decline. Your rate of progress is lower than somebody who may just have woken up and is just trying to understand their role and serve the universe in this world. So let's get messages from the Time Traveler's Oracle with this. I am going to take the other decks as well. That was too many. So let's see. Yeah. We'll take this one. Just wanted to come out first. One was kind of popping out the side. I'll come back to it in a second because it's called Patience. So let's be patient with it. That is not the front of the card. This is the front of the card. So it's Nomads, Steppes of Mongolia, Vast Vistas, number 43. So the Vast Vistas element in here. This is a very nomadic card. There's the nomadic tribes in Dhaka, in Mongolia, shamanic tribes. This is a tough existence. But it talks about a very independent spirit. The people here in Mongolia, they live off the land. They live in their communities. They have a sense and connection with the land, which we don't have here. We never probably ever will in our lifetimes, for sure. And there's pros and cons to that. But this is talking about a sense of independence, as a sense of you being able to work with your environment, the environment that whatever that is, or the environment you want to be in, and being able to be this kind of independent being. And the stag here in the sky, it gives a sense of leadership. It gives a sense of this crown sense of leadership. And here, like, embodying this kind of crown being, this is you probably in the divine here, but you want to start embodying this teacher. And when I say king, I mean more of a teacher. We're on, this is a Thoth channel, and the high priest can often be the more guiding force than the king, than the ruler. And so this is you being independent. You're being that kind of independent nomad and working your way through the world, but doing it with a sense of leadership. And it requires patience, because you're not doing it in a kingly sense as we think of it on earth. You're doing it in a spiritual sense, and you're achieving that through stillness. You're centering it through stillness. And that's probably your go-to. You're never going to be the loudest in the room with your words, with your dictation, but more with your energy and how you guide people. Under the Bodhi tree in northern India, and that's talking about enlightenment and talking about Buddha being enlightened. One of the most enlightened beings is still never fully enlightened. When Buddha was fully enlightened, Buddha left the wheel of samsara. He went to nirvana. It's good you go. So you're in this process of doing that, embodying the spiritual calling, but it takes patience. It takes you coming back to center, going out again, coming back to center, going out again, because we are always taught in this world, and I think this is a message to hear. We are always taught in this world how to come out of being centered. Always. There will always be a force to take us out of center in this world, unless you're in a monastery in the Tibetan hills or something like that. Even then, I'm sure there are things that will be there to take you out of center. And so it is the harder thing, despite the advice we're given of what success is in this modern world, is the more difficult thing to come back to center consistently. And so we're always being asked to find that patience, to find that sense of Zen and connection with something higher, to really embody this sacred act to us. This person who's going to make changes on the earth that are divinely led, orchestrated and guided in love. And that also brings you to a higher consciousness. Bottom of the deck, number 21, and this will speak to you if you're a star seed or you believe it, higher conscious beings that are around us, or even if you're just seeing it in a sense of being more embodying love, more embodying empathy, more embodying a vibration, or more embodying a way of being that is going to help shift this earth. And this, if you believe in that sense of having higher guides, is a connection that there are higher guides that are around you, not just in the angelic realms, but in all kinds of realms that are supporting you, and that you're aiming to get as much as you can to embody this higher consciousness. It's rife all through this reading, is saying you are looking to embody a higher consciousness, to embody a higher understanding, to be this kind of clear diamond type of vessel, and bright and transparent in it. And some people won't be able to handle that light, but you will embody a higher sense of love, and you will have an effect on people, whether they're conscious of it or not. You will have a regal kind of effect on people that is not overtly and obviously and so consciously that you are a leader as such. And I use that leader loosely because the kings that we have in modern world are they besmirch the kind of idea of a king in a higher sense. It's not a good reflection or representation of what a king or a leader is. And so the world is desperately in need of people who are merciful and divine kind of leaders. So that's just from the ancestors. This one is clear. The peacemaker, persistent patience. This kind of fell on this card, and it gives a nice little juxtaposition to the same thing, because, you know, sacred activist, you can see as how is that a spiritual warrior. I mean, there is, and Joan of Arc was guided by a lot of kind of St. Catherine and previous patron saints that are female, that are still not really talked about because of patriarchal society that we live in. But here is you embodying that with persistent patience, temperance. And it's a card I've been focused on a lot recently, and this is the only deck that has an equivalent of a temperance card that I've got here at the moment. So, of course, it would come out, and today I saw some iris flowers, and iris kind of represents the temperance card, and there are iris flowers in the Rider-Waite, and in the mythic tarot, Iris, the goddess of rainbow, is the temperance card. And it speaks to this balance. It speaks to you being that kind of rainbow, like the colours that come through, that refract through a diamond, the colours of the rainbow of the 7 chakras. You're embodying, you're a walking bloody rainbow, you're a walking miracle. And you're embodying more being a walking miracle, rather than just being, oh, I'm a miracle, but I'm also this, that, and the other. I wanted to say a banker, but let's not pick out a specific career. But I mean, you know, there's no judgment on any career, but it's not really just the career you do. It's the way you work in it. What do you stand for? And this is it. What's your balance in it? Are you heavily masculine? Are you heavily feminine? Or are you balanced between the two? And do you do it with grace and joy and a smile on your face? And there's also a cosmic gateway for you as well. Those who who link to and feel those links to Egypt and past lives and things like this. And I can also go to higher consciousness beings. This is you kind of understanding that while you walk the earth, while you walk in love, you're embodying it with persistent patience. Okay, so let's off with the crows. There's 3 cards coming out in a different way. So there's a lot of cards coming out here, and I'm going to kind of go through them in rapid fire. Protection. Of all the cards that can speak to Archangel Michael in this deck is protection. You're being divinely protected as you come out of this egg, as you hatch, as you become this walking miracle. You are protected, and know that and believe in that. And ask for it as well. You can call on Archangel Michael or Universe or the Divine for protection at any time. So number 15 also comes out on distraction. Number 15 in the major arcana would be the devil cards, and that can relate to distraction as well. Here it's talking about, this crow's distracting this dog's getting the dog food. So you can use distraction in a good way, as you can distract people from what your higher calling is by doing other things, and that can put people off while you work on yourself, and that's quite a clever thing to do. You're doing something for a higher purpose, but not really laying all your cards out on the table. But it's also a question of, are you being distracted? Are you the dog here? Are you being distracted from what your higher calling is and what your rewards that are designed for you? Are you being taken away from that by things that are distracting you on this earth? 27 is isolation, and we talk about isolation here, and a lot of people are going through these changes, would be going through isolation. And so in that isolation, you're forming like this egg, you are walking in this patience. So you can try and ground this kind of cosmic love and walk forward with it. You have gifts, you have divine gifts, you have gifts to share with the world, and by reciprocation the gifts also come to you as you share your gifts. It's finding the people and places to do that, and I'm going to put with that, the bottom of the deck on the ancestors was what is essentially the Queen of Pentacles, Mother of Earth, fertile ground. So you're finding fertile ground. There's the abundance here, there's the gifts here to say, look, there is a stage, there are stages for you. If you can hone in, if you can focus in, if you can stand in who you are and that divine light and that divine love, and let go of the things that are distracting you or taking away from you, the false gifts that may be around. And then you find a sense of community, number 10. Number 10, changes and the cycles. You've grown underneath and you're flourishing on top. We're coming into summertime when everything's kind of getting into full bloom. I mentioned the iris flowers. This is a huge community on this tree, and you'd relate it to a tree of life. You're looking for the people and places that are going to be those right communities for you as you walk through this change. The bottom of the deck then is growth for the crows, and that's what's coming for you. You're growing as a being, and it takes time and it takes patience, but you're divinely protected here. And the sun comes beaming out as I say that, just to confirm that message, that you're divinely protected here. The universe wants the best for you. The universe wants you to spread your gifts. The universe wants you to embody this being of love. And so the more you tune into that, the more you can stay centered and patient in your journey as still moving in action, then the more that you can create this sacred activism on earth. And it doesn't, again, have to be such a fierce physical thing, but it can just be by your very presence, and what you embody and what you stand for can be radical in itself, and that can be what your spiritual calling is, or that can be you embodying a spiritual path. So thank you for being here in you. I believe in that fire in you and that drive you have, and that you will make the changes that you need to do, and that you are divinely protected and assisted in clearing those ties and things you need to let go of, and in divine timing they will shed and they will clear away, just like we're in the year of the snake. Those things will shed and you will come out anew, brighter and bigger and stronger than before. Thank you for doing this work and helping all of us as you go along. I love you. Namaste.